Well, hello everyone, and welcome to East-West Healing Space. I'm Tony Narens, and I usually do bi-weekly I Ching readings here. Last week I only did one because I had oral surgery, but I'm back on track this week. When I'm not doing bi-weekly I Ching readings, or sometimes even when I do, I'll pop in with an oracle card reading. So if you're new here, welcome to our community. And if you're tuning in again, welcome back. And this reading will be for today, which is Monday, April 14th, 2025. And so I do a general reading because I don't know you personally. So I do a general reading, and the question is, what is the message for today? What do we need to know for today? And the I Ching is an amazing text. It will let us know. All right. Okay. Let's see. I'll open this to a brand new page. And today is 4/14/25. Yesterday we had an amazing full moon. I don't know if you got to see it. We have a head, we have a tail, and a tail. So this is a young line, and it's not a changing line. I saw that full moon as I was driving home last night. It was extraordinary. Very beautiful. So what is our message for today, dear I Ching? As the moon begins to wane, what is our message? A head, and a tail. Okay. That's an 8. That's a yin line. And again, it's not changing. What is our message for today? Today is Monday, April 14th. And so what does the I Ching have to tell us about Monday? A head, a tail, and a tail. Once again, we're back to the 7. All right, this is the lower trigram. So we have a yin line in between 2 yang lines. What is today's message? What is today's message? A head, and a head. 3 heads are better than none, I always say. That's a 9. It's a yang line, but it's also a changing line. And I put an X. Some people put a circle. I put an X. What is the message for today? A tail, a head, and a head. And that's a yin line. What is today's message? What do you have to tell us today, Mama Ching? I always call her Mama Ching. A tail, and a tail. 3 tails is a 6, and that is a yin line, but it's a changing line. So the changing line becomes a yang line, the yin line stays the same, and the yang line becomes a yin line. And the bottom, there are no changing lines, so we have yang, yin, yang. Okay, so let's see what it says. Now there's a way of reading the I Ching where you don't even have to read what it says in the book, and I use the Wilhelm translation. There are other translations, but I've had this book for decades, so this is the one I use. But you can just, if you know your trigrams, you can just read the trigrams and know what the message is. But that's a deeper level, and I'm not going to go into that right now. So, in the back of the book, we have this chart, and down here we have Li as the lower trigram, and the upper trigram has a yang line with 2 yin lines, and that's Chen. So we go from Li to Chen, and that's 55. And then Li stays on the bottom. Here we go. Li stays on the bottom, and it becomes Ken on the top. So we go from Li to Ken, and that's 22. Yes. So let's look up 55. 55. 55. Ooh, I like it. I like it. 55 is abundance. We have the clinging flame down below and the arousing thunder up above. So the nature of the flame moves upward, and its attribute, as it says here, is clarity. We need a little light in order to see. And thunder is movement. So it is movement in light. Okay? Clarity within, movement without. Okay? That's a good combination. When you have clarity inside and movement, and you move from a place of clarity, that is, I can see why they would say fullness and abundance. Okay? That's what I mean by you can just look at the trigrams. So here's the judgment. Abundance has success. The king attains abundance. Be not sad. Be like the sun at midday. Yes, the sun at midday directly overhead shines the most light of the entire day. Okay? And here it claims only a born ruler of men is able to bring about a time of outstanding greatness. Well, I think that in my personal experience is that every one of us can, through our own choices that we make, bring about a time of greatness and abundance. Maybe not to the world, but to our own personal lives. So that would be my personal reading. The image, both thunder and lightning come, the image of abundance. Hello. Thus, the superior man decides lawsuits and carries out punishments. Oh, please, keep me away from lawsuits and punishments. This hexagram has certain connections with Sheho, biting through, in which thunder and lightning similarly appear together, but in the reverse order. Okay? In biting through, laws are laid down. Here they are applied and enforced. Okay, well, we don't have to go into that part. So we have some lines. We have lines in the 4th and the 6th place. Okay, here we go. 9 in the 4th place means the curtain is of such fullness that the pole stars can be seen at noon. He meets his ruler who is of like kind, good fortune. Oh, here the darkness is already decreasing. Therefore, interrelated elements come together. Oh, I do like this. I do like this. Here, too, the complement must be found, the necessary wisdom to complement joy of action. Then everything will go well. The complementary factor postulated here is the reverse of the one in the first line. Well, we're not reading the first line. In the latter, wisdom is to be complemented by energy, while here the energy is to be complemented by wisdom. Interesting to make that distinction. 6 in the 5th place, no, 6 at the top, means his house is in a state of abundance. He screens off his family. He peers through the gate and no longer perceives anyone. For 3 years he sees nothing misfortune. This describes a man who, because of his arrogance and obstinacy, attains the opposite of what he strives for. Well, let's hope that's not any of us. He seeks abundance and splendor for his dwelling. He wishes at all odds to be master in his house, which so alienates his family that in the end he finds himself completely isolated. Well, this makes sense. I mean, if that's how someone acts, it is not a surprise to me that they wind up being alone. Arrogance never leads to connection, does it? All right. I know I'm right, but I know I'm right. Okay, where's the connection? I believe I'm right, but I'm willing to listen to you and your perspective. That's a little different. And what does this turn into? It turns into 22, which is grace. On top we have the mountain keeping still, and on the bottom, the clinging fire. This hexagram shows that a fire that breaks out of the secret depths of the earth and, blazing up, illuminates and beautifies the mountain, the heavenly heights. Grace, beauty of form, is necessary in any union if it is to be well ordered and pleasing rather than disordered and chaotic. That's for sure. The judgment. Grace has success. In small matters, it is favorable to undertake something. So it's pointing to small matters. In other words, this is not about building your castle. It's about maybe just checking out the plans first before you start building the castle. Grace brings success, however, it is not the essential or fundamental thing. It is only the ornament and must therefore be used sparingly and only in little things. There you go. In the lower trigram, a yielding line comes between two strong lines and makes them beautiful. But the strong lines are the essential content, and the weak line is the beautifying form. Okay, we'll talk about this one. We'll talk about all of it. The image, fire at the foot of the mountain, the image of grace. Thus does the superior man proceed when clearing up current affairs, but he dare not decide controversial issues in this way. The fire whose light illuminates the mountain and makes it pleasing does not shine far in the same way. Beautiful form suffices to brighten and throw light upon matters of lesser moment, but important questions cannot be decided in this way. They require greater earnestness. Okay, so let's talk about what these two mean, all right? So, I want to talk for a moment about the inner trigrams here in 55. It's interesting that I mentioned that we had a full moon last night, and that is abundance and fullness. But you know, the thing about the Book of Changes and the whole Chinese philosophy is that when you reach abundance, which is the full moon, what happens? Things start to wane, okay? They get less. So things increase and increase and increase until they get full, and then they decrease and decrease and decrease. And that has a lot to do with what abundance here means. But we have a couple of inner trigrams, and I don't always talk about them because that's a very big subject. But I'm going to talk about them today. So we have two inner trigrams, and the inner trigram would be, this here, which is two yang lines and a yin line, and that's Tui. And then here, I have to make sure I get this right. At any rate, we have the flip side, which is two yang lines up above and a yin line down below, and that is Sun. Okay, so as you can see, it's like the reverse image of each other. Two yang lines with a yin line on top, two yang lines with a yin line, that is supposed to be a yin line, it got really close there, but two yang lines up above with a yin line down below. So, where was I going to go with this? All right. So what we have here is Tui, which is the joyous, the lake is up above, and below we have Sun, which is the penetrating, the wind. So we have wind and water and thunder and lightning. There's a whole lot of energy here. And when there's a whole lot of energy in something, it has to be managed, regulated with intelligence, with inner wisdom. Otherwise, it gets out of control and it does not lead to good things, okay? So in this case, they say abundance means greatness, right? Fullness. It's the maximum. It's like the moon last night, but it leads to decline. All right? So that is the sense of abundance. And so we have the full light, which begins to darken. Okay? The light of the moon begins to darken. The abundance begins to decrease. And it's only, you know, they talk about a king. Well, the whole idea of a king is somebody who, in theory, which, as we know, is not always the case, but theoretically, at least in the I Ching, the king is somebody who is superior, the superior man. In other words, he has cultivated self-knowledge, he has cultivated himself, and he comes from a moral center and has great moral character. So when they say in the judgment, the king attains abundance, be not sad, be like the sun at midday. Well, the sun at midday gives light to everything. And so the king, who would be of high moral character, would shed light on everything. As we know, this is not always the case. This is an idealistic world, okay? um, so, um, so this is where everything begins. This is where it all begins, with a great deal of energy and a great deal of power. And it's right at the midday, and it's like the full moon. It's fullness and abundance. And then it turns into 22. So let's talk about grace. Okay, so grace also has two nuclear trigrams, and that would be this one, which has a yang line below and two yin lines above, and then this one. I don't know if this makes sense because, oh, I said two yin lines. I only drew one. Okay. And then the upper one is yin, yang, yin. So this is Chen, and this is Kan. So, Kan is the abysmal danger. It's water. It's clouds. And Chen is the arousing. It's thunder. That's this. Thunder, which, as we know, is movement. Okay? So we have those two nuclear trigrams for grace. So we have a lot of energy up here, and we have a lot of the abysmal, the water, its movement is downward. So there is a certain harmony between these two. Thunder is up above and water is down below. So when there's thunder, there's usually rain. And so that harmonizes with the water that's down below. However, there is a necessity here. It says it's favorable to undertake something in the judgment. And grace has success. But it's also, they talk about in small things. And that's because part of what the commentaries talk about in this hexagram is grace having to do with ornament and adornment. And so they say that when you don't have grace if you have too much going on the outside, the adornment, excessive adornment. But the true grace comes from within, okay? When you allow that which is within to express itself, okay? That is where beauty and grace lie. So it's grace but in a sense, in small measure. That's why one doesn't undertake big things. That's why grace has success in small matters. Okay? That's where this hexagram, that's what this hexagram is talking about. There's the fire here, the lower trigram is fire, and the upper trigram is the mountain. So it's fire at the foot of the mountain. So we're talking about fire clears away the brush at the foot of the mountain. The small things. We don't want it to consume the entire mountain, though. So we keep it small. We keep it small. And that's where grace lies. So I hope this makes sense. It certainly is timely at this time when we are coming off of a full moon, which happened yesterday on the 13th of April. And we are moving into the decline. It's perfect timing. But then again, the I Ching always is. Otherwise, it would be a pretty stupid oracle, which it is not. It's been around for a few thousand years. If it was stupid, it would have gone away. So if you like this content, please hit the like button. Help to share it. You don't know who you are going to help. There's somebody out there that needs to hear this today. You don't know them, and I don't know them. But let's try to help them and make the world a better place. It's a small matter to click that like button. It's a small matter to make a little comment, tiny comment. But it helps. It helps to grow the channel. Thanks, and I will see you again later this week. Bye for now.